You are getting ready to listen to the voice of Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, 2004 Olympian, four-time national judo champion, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, author, speaker, and coach.
Here we go. Hey, what's going on? This is Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Rhadi. Sometimes I have special guests on, and today I have a very special guest, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics. I know some of you all have watched me over the years and seen me train my kids, Rufus and Rhadi. You've watched I guess I would say the anthology of their personal development and their athletic development and their lives, if you will, because you've been able to peep into the inside of their lives, which is something kind of new that hasn't happened before. As someone who's 47 years old, my parents told my family members about my life through Polaroids, pictures, and handwritten letters. Now we get to go inside the lives of our friends on Instagram, on Facebook, and a lot of social media platforms. And also with that, when, like my guest, you have children who are very well known, you also get unsolicited feedback at times from people on your excuse me, my phone went off, on your rearing practices, on how you do things, and their level of parental expertise that they've gotten from Google and YouTube University. So today I would like to introduce my guest, who is also a mentor of mine, Dr. Anne Maria Damaris. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you, Rhadi.
It's good to be seen and not viewed.
That's true.
You said that's true. So the last time that I saw you, you were here in Tampa, Florida, visiting your sister and your mom. What's been happening since then?
Well, a lot of things. I always say that I believe good comes back to you. I think all that whole thing about, nice guys finish last, and I think that's complete bull. I believe, as a very wise mentor of mine in business once said, that character is destiny. If you do good things for people, things will work out. So long story about that, we worked with some students, and maybe we'll talk about this later, but we worked with some students who needed help with a class project, needed a company to study, and it went so well that now we're considering doing crowd equity and doing a seed raise for a company. So that would be a first. So I'm learning all about that. Not our first seed round, but our first venture into crowd equity. Probably produced a couple more games since the last time I saw you. Just crazy busy at work. And I think, Rhonda had already had her baby by the time I saw you. So visiting grandkids, working like crazy, and traveling all over to try to get the word out about improving education. Because no one you meet ever says, gee, I wish I was dumber and more ignorant.
Oh, you'd be surprised. From what you see on Facebook, sometimes you'd be surprised. It seems like some people request that sometimes. I figure, I said, man, that's the only way that you can really get that dumb. I didn't think it was possible. So many people suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, and they just don't know that they don't know. So let's start at the beginning. We're going to work our way all the way back to where you started and talk about parenting a little bit. I didn't give people the whole background. Excuse me. People don't know that you have more than one kid. You have three, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
I have
four.
I had 3 in 5 years, which was interesting. Mm-hmm. And then more than 11 years later, I had the fourth one. So there's Maria, Jennifer, Rhonda, Julia, 4 girls.
Okay. Well, talk about them.
All right. And we even did an ebook, which we're now giving away for free, called Parenting Like I Know What I'm Doing. So I can send you the link to that, and your listeners can download it and see a little about all 4 of my girls. So Maria is the oldest. She graduated from NYU at 20, ran track all the way through, didn't run track. She did track all the way through college. She was a pole vaulter. Then she went to work for ESPN and Sports Illustrated as a sports writer, was a sports writer for Lord, I think it was Associated Press, Knight Ridder, one of them. Anyway, she was a sports writer. She did the cover the Indiana Colts, I know, among other things. And then she jumped ship, became the CEO of our company, Seven Generation Games. She's won awards from everything from the Rising Star for the Latino Businesswomen's Association to like 40 Hispanics under 40 and Forbes. She's won so many awards, I can't keep track, to be honest, for business and journalism. So that's Maria. Jennifer she always gets mad at me when I say this because Jen was the one that I thought, I got this parenting thing down, right? My first kid graduated high school with a 4.3 GPA, scholarship to NYU. I got it down. So then Jennifer comes along, and Jennifer does great at every class that she likes. And if she doesn't like it, she does think she should do no work for it. And this is philosophy that the Archdiocese of Los Angeles Schools does not share. So she ended up dropping out of high school, going to community college at 16, and by 21, she had her bachelor's from San Francisco State in history, went on USC for a master's and a teaching credential, and she's an outstanding teacher. I mean, it's not just me that says so. Anybody who's ever met her, worked with her, she works, her first 6 years were in the heart of Los Angeles, down on 6th and Union, the places tourists don't go. And they loved her. And now she's still working for USD out in the Valley. So that's my second daughter. And then Rhonda, again, after Jen and Maria, Rhonda didn't cause me any trouble. She was a good kid. She did judo, made the junior world team at 15. Didn't go because she didn't want to. Went to the junior world at 17 in judo and won, and went to the Olympics at 17 and went back to the Olympics at 21. And co-authored a New York Times bestseller with her sister, was world champion, UFC first women's champion, won a bunch of things, was in some movies like Fast and Furious, now she's in the WWE, doing all kinds of stuff with business, with Rousey Acres and investing in agricultural land. But yeah, the day after she turned 18, she left home in the middle of the night. So I'm telling you all of this because no matter how great of a parent you are, you just have those times and you just think, I lost my St. Jude medal. My kids used to make fun of me for wearing it. St. Jude, I know you're not Catholic, is the patron saint of lost causes, of hopeless causes. This is why all these cancer hospitals are named after St. Jude. And I think if you're a parent, often you feel like there's no hope. And then Julia, the baby, got an academic scholarship to Villanova Prep, which cost about the same amount of a kidney. But yeah, she went there for 4 years, and then she got an academic scholarship to Lesley University. And the only things that I think about Julia, one semester in high school, she was captain of the soccer team, elected to the student council, and made the dean's list. Like, we hit the letters all the same day. And then she went to Lesley, graduated from there in 4 years, went to the NCAA championships for Division III in soccer 3 times, made the dean's list, did a semester abroad in London. So those are my 4 kids. And now I have 8 grandkids too.
8 grandkids. So yeah. Let me ask you a question. I didn't even know when did you finish the book?
Oh, it was an ebook we did just for fun. We used to do a blog called Parenting Like I Know What I'm Doing. So we did it, 2-3 years ago. And we used to sell it for a couple bucks on Amazon. And I went to this marketing thing that they talked about free mints. Like at restaurants, they give away free mints. And what could you give away free to people? And I thought, well, we have this ebook. We have this other ebook that we should also make free. That's the family textbook. That's our family group text that's gone on for years. It's hilarious. So I should probably do that one too. But Parenting Like I Know What I'm Doing is Maria and I back and forth on our different views on parenting. It started, can I swear in your podcast?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, it started because I know that woman, Amy, whatever her name was, wrote a book, and it was basically the thesis of it was that Chinese mothers are superior to American mothers. And there was even a big article in that Wall Street Journal, how Chinese mothers are superior. And I wrote a blog post, kind of tongue-in-cheek, called How American Mothers Are Superior, because I thought that was more professional than fuck you and the horse you rode in on. because who is she to say that, her parenting superior? I mean, like her kids were in high school, right? But anyway, I got a lot of hate about that. You're talking about people who give you opinion. And it was funny because it was many years ago. And so at the time, people were, who are you to talk? What have your kids ever done? And I remember once Rhonda started hitting it big, she was over and she's like, yeah, Mom, you should write back all those people and say, how do you like me now? But I thought her idea that you make your kids do everything, and I know there are parents that do this, they have an Excel sheet with their kids' schedule on it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and they go to Kumon classes on the weekend and they study and here's the funny thing. My kids did judo with a lot of those kids, and they didn't go to any better schools than my kids did.
They don't end up going to any better schools, man. I didn't do the International Baccalaureate program in high school. I kind of parent the way that my parents did, and a little bit lighter. My mom and dad had like markers that you're gonna hit. Like reading was not optional in the house. Like my parents were like, I tell you to get the book, you get it and you read it, and there will be no violence here. Mm-hmm. And that was it.
Did they let you read whatever you wanted?
Yes, in addition to what they're asking me to read. Now, it wasn't an overload read, only in the summer. In the summer, it was book reports every weekend, mandatory. And as much as I disliked that back then, I tell my mom, I am no Stephen King, but I'm an excellent writer. And I'm appreciative of my ability to have great command over the pen. And that would not, and I told my mom, I said, that would not have happened without those reps. Not at all.
I think all good writers read a lot. I think that's
yes.
true.
And now, but I love reading. I didn't love reading when I was younger, but I love reading now. And I can sit down, and you're like me. One of my friends asked me, I said, I kind of having a conversation. I said, so yeah, I looked up what you were talking about last night. I read about 10 articles on it. I said, you did what? I said, yeah, I just got on Google Scholar and I went over about 10 articles. I said, how do you go over 10 articles? I said, honey, if you can't go over 10 articles, if you have a PhD in a matter of, 45 minutes, I said, you're going to have a problem. I said, sometimes you got to go over 10, 15 articles and get up in front of somebody in front of a room and act like you know what the hell you're talking about, right? And reference the names in there. In the article, right? So my parents just had markers, but they were strict. And I understand why my parents were strict. And I can see my kids, in the place and space that we're in society, and understanding that my parents, who drank from a colored water fountain, who grew up in the 60s, who saw different stuff, who got hit with the water hose from the police, like they were raising me to survive.
Right.
And I raised my kids to thrive. A little bit different. My parents were right per what they were experiencing at the time. So it's just a little bit. And I'm people think I'm strict, but I'm way more lax than my parents were.
Me too. Me too.
Way more lax. Like way more. Like my daughter has never had a spanking from me. Ever.
Well, I'll tell you something. I have never laid a hand on Julia. She's the youngest. Jennifer, I believe I hit once when she was 3. She was trying to wash Rhonda's hair, and she had somehow they climbed up on top of the the washing machine, and she got the
Drano,
the laundry detergent, and put it in Rhonda's hair. And then she was trying to get the bleach container open, which, thank you God, those have, child safe things.
Yes.
And I caught her and I hauled her off there and whacked her one, and she still remembers it. But right. I believe Yeah, so I think I've hit Jennifer once. I hit Rhonda once when she was trying to kill Jennifer, and they were like, she was a teenager, and I called her off. She's like, "I don't want to hurt you, Mom." I said, "Oh, I have gray hair down to my knees before you hurt me. I will knock you in the next Thursday. You get your sister again." I mean, she was trying to kill her, and I mean, Jennifer can be annoying, but you don't get to kill your sister. And in fact, when Rhonda gets interviewed on Spanish language TV, they ask her, how much Spanish does she know? And she says, "I don't get in trouble Spanish. Like, cállate la boca y no le pega a tu hermana," which for anybody listening doesn't know means shut your mouth and don't hit your sister. Yeah, and I hit Maria once because she hit me when she was like 13. And I hit her back, and I did not hit her nearly as hard as I could solely because she was 13 and my kid. And we talked about it years later. She goes, "You can hit harder than that?" I said, "Oh, you damn straight." But my point is, out of 4 children, I've actually administered 3 spankings, and not even spankings. I mean, I hit them each once. I don't believe in, I know you and I have different views on this. I don't believe in hitting your children. And it comes from, there's a difference between hitting your children and beating your children.
Yeah, and spanking, correcting, right.
I just want to say, I lived in foster care for a while, so that can tell you as much as you need to know.
Yes.
I don't believe in hitting kids. I think that as an adult, if you hit me, I'm hitting you back.
Correct.
And if you do hit a child, it should be so rare that they never forget. In fact, I take it back. I did hit Maria another time when she was 3 and ran out in the street. And yeah, I mean, each of them, they're in their 30s, and well, Julie's in her 20s, and they remember that.
My son cannot, on both hands, cannot count the spankings that he's had in his life. So I remember my son did something, and I voice inflection and take him in a room and give him three swats. Mm-hmm. I came out. My dad said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "That's a spanking." He grabbed my arm. He said, "Ain't no damn spanking. Get your ass back in there." I said, "Pop," I said, "what you did to me, okay, today is child abuse, my man." I said, "You cannot beat kids for a 3-minute period, I said, "You can't do that." I said, you explain, you provide a small aversive stimulus, and then you move on, man. I said, you can't. I said, the days of the, pulling out the belt and doing the syllabic, "I told you to." No, I said, you can't do that.
I got beat, and it did not make me a better person. It just made me an angry person. So I'm against it.
I got the beatings that I got. I 100% earned, for sure. And I understood why I got them. I had some very egregious behavior. I can still remember the one time that I did not get a beating. They used to send home these progress reports and yeah, bad behavior, and they gave 1 copy and then 2 copies, and then the 3rd copy was a pink copy. And I had been signing these things for my parents and forging their names. I was practicing their signature from the checkbook. I had been doing this for a good 4 or 5 months for the year. I forgot one day, and then the pink slip was there, and I had to get the pink slip in. So I went to sign it, and the ball from the pen broke, smeared the ink over the paper. The ball of the pen just came out, and the ink went everywhere. So I tried to kind of, trace it, but it wouldn't dry. And it was too far in the day for me to say I just got it from my parents. But I tried to hand it in, and they were like, they called my parents in. When they called my parents in, the Principal Russell, I still remember his name, old girl of mention, he came in, he said, "So, Mr. and Mrs. Ferguson, did you sign any of these?" Hey. Oh my gosh. My parents went through the papers, and this is not just, it's not like 10 papers here. There's papers and notes, and Rhadi was doing this and he was doing that, and can we get a parent conference? it had to be about 35, 40 papers that I had forged. Oh my gosh, Doc. My dad got in the car. My mom was in the car. You know, back then your parents come from work, they're suited up, you know what I'm saying? My mom worked for IBM, and she got on her clothes, and my dad's knotted up, suit. My dad got in the car. He says, "I'm not gonna beat you when we get home." He says, "Because if I beat you, I'm going to kill you." Listen, that's the first time he's ever said anything like that. I don't know if I was relieved or more scared when he said that. But tell me this. So you have been UFC mom, WrestleMania mom, WWE mom, Strikeforce mom, World Championship mom, Olympian mom, NCAA championship mom, New York bestseller mom, and what is that parenting experience been like?
I always think about what Maya Angelou said about raising her son. She said, I did the best with what I knew. And when I knew better, I did better. So, I had my first child when I was 24. I turned 24 like 2 weeks before. So I just did the best I could. Jimmy Pedro Sr. gave me really good advice. I ran into him. Ronda was still a white belt, I think. And I was coaching some kids at the high school nationals. And I didn't even think he'd recognize me, but he did. And his son, Jimmy Jr., had just won like a bronze medal in the world championships. And I said, so Mr. Pedro, I hear your son's doing really well. And I remember your daughter did really well. I said, do you have any advice for somebody, coaching their own kid? And he said, always ask yourself, are you doing this for you or are you doing it for your kid? And if you can honestly answer you're doing it for your kid, you won't go wrong. Because even if you make mistakes, you made them, with the best of intentions. And there have been times when I've stepped back and said, do I want Rhonda to go to this tournament? Do I want Julia to go to this school because I want to impress the neighbors? My friends are really pressuring me to do this or whatever. Do I really think it's the best interest for her? And, there's some times when I kind of changed what I was doing, when I could say, I'm really doing, don't want to send her here or want her to beat this kid because I can't stand their coach. And it's really not that important to her. And there's other times when I thought, we need to step up, kid. And you will be sorry if you back down here. So I try and I know everybody says they do this. Oh, I just do what's in the best interest of my children. And sometimes people don't like me because I refuse to play into people's fantasies. In other words, you say you're just doing this for the best interest of your kid, but you're making your kid go to that club that really is not benefiting them anymore because you don't want the other parents to talk bad about you. You're making them do this sport that they have no interest in because really a lot of your socialization is with those other parents. I don't know if it's good or bad or just part of my personality, but a lot of the sports that my kids have been in, whether it's soccer or track or judo, a lot of the other parents are very involved. They volunteer, they're at every meet, and I think it would be harder for them if their kid quit than for their child. And I think it's okay to quit things if it's not for you. I mean, Julia did judo from the time she was 4 till she was 11. And she said, Mom, I want to play soccer. And I did not believe her. She was not very motivated in judo. I didn't think she'd be very motivated in soccer. She started playing at 11, which, in soccer, a lot of kids start sooner. Her team was okay. She played in high school. Her team was mostly kids getting a line on their college track, application that could care less about soccer. Decided she was going to play club soccer, drove herself to the tryouts, made the team, and got recruited to play in college. So it was fine that she quit judo at 11 after 7 years. Rhonda did swimming for 5 years, from 6 to 11, made the Junior Olympics in the LA region, which LA is huge for swimming, right?
Swimming, yes.
and decide at 11, I don't want to swim anymore. I want to do judo. It's okay to quit stuff. And I think that's a very big lesson. I'm waiting for, I know Rhonda and Maria are working on another book, and I told them both, I'm really looking forward to reading it, because I think a big lesson is it's okay to quit things when it's not serving your purpose anymore.
And when it's your thing, yeah. I remember, and I won't go into particulars unless you want to, but I won't go into particulars. But I remember there was an issue that, we kind of rapped about during Ronda's MMA career that you just didn't like. And it was from a parenting standpoint, it was something that you didn't like. But it was also your daughter's decision to do some of the things that she wanted to do with her life. And you had to damn near bite your tongue till you damn near bled out. You say your piece, and then you dropped it. You know what I mean? And that's really tough for parents to do. It's tough for parents to let their kids sometimes make their own mistakes.
Now, here's the thing that probably a lot of people don't know about me. I left home for good at 15. Got a fake ID, got a job. It was a lot easier before computers. Got an apartment. And, when I look back, it's a lot of stuff I did when I was young is just fucking insane. And my kids will tell you, I didn't know where they were overnight, I would call CHP, right? But yeah, so the idea of parenting, even an older teenager, much less an adult, was just something I kind of had to trial and error. But one thing I will say, having children who are successful, it's true of Rhonda, but it's true to an extent. It's true mostly of Rhonda. It's true to some extent of Maria. And I think someday Rhonda will be known as Julie DeMar's older sister. But you need to be somebody needs to be around a person who's very successful that tells them the truth. Like, I get no money from Rhonda. People are like, why do you work? And why are you doing a crowd equity raise? And why are you doing this? Isn't your daughter rich? I take no money from Rhonda. I mean, if I go somewhere with her, I'm not getting a dime. A lot of times I paid my own way to get there. And, all those UFC things, I bought my own ticket. And it's important that there's somebody who's not counting on that person for their paycheck, that they can speak honestly. And, we've talked about that before. And she's like, Mom, why? I have houses. She's been really wise in investing in real estate. She says, you can pick one, move into it, don't work. And I said, there needs to be somebody around you that, number one, is not counting on you for a paycheck, that could say, you know what? That's just stupid. You need to not do that. Or you really need to do this. And that that there's no vested interest in it. And the other thing I told her is I see and I feel sorry for them. Some of these young athletes and their entire family is living off them. And it's not just young athletes. I mean, probably there were people with you at Howard like that they were the one in their family that were success. Yep. And they became a cardiologist or whatever. And all these people are counting on them. And that's super stressful for that person because they can't make a decision like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to try this other thing. Because, oh, what about all these people around me who are counting on me? And I told her, I don't want you ever to be that way. You have your kids and that's it. And so I think there's that one thing where you, as the parent, and this was true when she was competing too, before she was, making a lot of money. When you're on the Olympic team, everyone wants to be a friend and everyone wants you to, speak out for them. And she would do stuff and I'd say, you need to not be doing that. And same thing when Maria was writing for Sports Illustrated and ESPN, all these people around want to be on her good side. So I think the one thing as a parent, no matter how successful your child is, and sometimes that means you are the meanest person in the whole wide world. And I've seen this with elite athletes. I've seen it with people extremely wealthy. I've seen it with women who are very beautiful. And all three of them have in common, everyone around them is basically kissing their ass, right? So if you don't, I was with a young woman, very beautiful young woman who was in the media, and there was an older woman who was giving her opinion on something, and later the older woman went away, and this young woman says to me, why was she so mean to me? said, honey, she wasn't mean to you. She treated you like normal people get treated every day. She was not impressed. She was some 70-year-old lady. She doesn't care you're beautiful, whatever. Right. And I think people in certain areas of life, they don't get that. And if you say, no, I can't come to your thing, I'm busy. Why are you so mean to me? No, normal people get that.
Right. They all the time. Yeah, I tell you what, I've had the opportunity to know some pretty amazing people in my lifetime, from being at Howard and just in the sporting circle, and people like your daughter and Bobby Lashley, Rashad Evans, and people like that. And I people are like, why don't you ask so and so? I never asked. I've seen Rashad fight on numerous occasions. I've never asked him for a ticket. I never asked him for, plane ticket. I never asked him for. I never asked for nothing. Like, I don't know why people. And if you've ever competed before, like I have, and like you have, man, that's some stressful shit when people are asking you for a fucking ticket, or can you take me here, or can you show me, man, I know, like, fuck, man, no. Like, no, man, I have things to do, things I need to worry about, you know. I remember, and I still, to this day, my kids are older now. To this day, man, I still thank Bobby Lashley. When he was at Impact Wrestling, he used to take my kids backstage, man, and walk them back there. And my kids didn't know any of them people back there.
Okay.
They just wanted the fucking snacks, Doc. They wanted
Oh, yeah. Oh, my daughter Julie was like that too. And my grandkids, what do they call that catering? There's a word for it. Oh.
I forget what it's called. Like in the green
services and that. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. My grandkids, Julie, when she was younger, that was the whole thing. It was all about the backstage catering.
Oh, they want to go backstage because they got it's like I don't know how the wrestlers never eat all that food because they gotta go out there and perform. But right. it's like food everywhere. It's like laid out. Like if you wanted to sit down and just eat, you could just eat the whole evening. I mean, my kids just popcorn and running back. Playing tag and the wrestlers grabbing them and picking up. They don't even know any of these people.
Yeah.
But they I still thank him to this day because he was nice, and there was never ask for anything like that. He just did it on his own. He just did it on his own, and I think that they get so guarded in that space. I'm older. People ask me how I know Ronda all the time, and I say, man, I know Ronda through her mom. I said, I sat down. We talked on the steps at the I think in the 2005 Nationals, I believe it was, in California. And we talked a little bit, and I said, man, I knew Ronda at the Olympics. I said, Ronda was 16 years old. I'm not sitting there having no goddamn long, drawn-out discussion with a 16-year-old kid. I mean, I felt bad for her. I remember she cried at the Olympics because she's like, I can't go out. I can't go anywhere. And she had to stay.
Right, wasn't I? I was right. And she will tell you to this day I was right. There was nothing going on in the Olympic Village that a 16-year-old needed to be involved in.
But nobody would let her go anywhere. They kept her in the room.
Well, we took her to the Sports Illustrated party because Maria was, writing for them. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting here like, Mom, this is a bunch of boring old people. Can we go? I want to go hang out with Nikki Cubes. And, this is like the e-ticket party that everyone wants to go to. And she's like, I never, they fly in some band from Australia. And she's like, I never heard of these people. Can I go, Mom?
Man, it was something. I remember I was in one evening. I think it was even the afternoon. I just kind of sat there and I was just talking with her because she was left. She was just, I felt bad. Like she didn't know this because she's so young, but she didn't know that everybody had to kind of unwritten rule, kind of take a shift, with Ronda while she was back. Cause she was 16. Like, and everybody had to watch her. You're 16. You're in the Olympic Village at 16. I am not saying, okay, I'm not saying that the Olympic Village is a predatory space.
I've been around the block a time or two. I've been on those trips.
Right. I'm not saying that it's a predatory space. What I'm saying is, more often than not, people don't make the Olympic team at 16, and they don't expect people to be 16 who are there.
Yeah.
And Ronda at 16 presented as 16 in her terms of her face. Okay, she's right. That's the way I'm going to say it.
She looked like a kid. Yeah,
she looked like a kid in her face. Correct, in her face, she looked like it. Her body, she looks like a professional athlete.
Right.
You don't want your 16-year-old professional athlete looking daughter, walking around the Olympic Village.
Yeah.
That's the other. She said,
well, you know Vicki Anthony, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, she did judo, and then she made the world team in wrestling several times. African American.
Oh, Victoria, yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've known her since she was a little girl, right? Like
yes.
9, 10 years old.
Yes.
So her father and I were at a judo tournament one time when she was still competing in judo, and Ronda was. And he turns to me and he says, our kids are just commodities, these coaches. Vicki gets pregnant, if she, gets injured, where she can never compete again, they will just find another athlete. But these are the only children we will ever have. And I've always remembered that. And no matter how much a coach might care about your kid, these people that say, oh, they're just like my own children, it's como mi propia hija. Shut up. No. Because I will always be there, win, lose, draw, injured, well, I will always be there. These coaches and a lot of these other people, they will be around. And I don't even say this, and Rhonda takes this personally, I don't at all. If you're a coach, that's what you do, that's a job. And it's just like when I go to a 4-star restaurant and I get terrific service, and then I leave. And I don't expect that guy to follow me home and, wash my sheets. And it's the same thing. Somebody's a coach and it's a job. And it's a very respectable job where you do good for people. You develop them physically, hopefully mentally, emotionally, socially as well. But it's a job. And that's different from being a parent or a friend.
Totally different. And I tell people all the time, I say, hey, man, I said, in the dojo, I'm teaching judo. I said, there's some of you all who are in my coaching programs who hire me as a coach. I said, that's a totally different level of responsibility. Going to tournaments and hanging out and that's totally different level of responsibility. I promise each of you parents in here that while your kid is in here, I will treat your child the same exact way that I treat my children. I said, for some of you all, that will be great. I said, for some of you, I said, for some of y'all, it won't. I said, but I'm not the parent. I said, you're the parent. And at the end of the day, you run the program, not me, because you're the parent. I said, at any time that you feel that you don't like what's going on in here, I tell them, listen, give me a call, give me a text. We'll talk about it at night. I say, if you try to create a scene in here, I said, I'm going to squash it just because we're already in here and I wouldn't do the same thing in your house. Yeah. I said, this is my place of business and this is a job. And I said, I'm running a business. I said, that's what I'm doing. I said, and your kid might be a great fit here and they might not. I had something happen with Rufus one time when he had an asthma attack on the mat. And I said, you have your inhaler? He says, no. I said, buddy, you're going to die. And the parents are like, and I called the ambulance. I said, man, you're probably going to die here, man. The parents are like, and then I turned around and I kept going on with practice. And the parents, they were like, why did you do that? I said, let me tell you something. I said, there's absolutely nothing I can do for him if he's having an asthma attack. I said, and the ambulance is not going to get here fast enough if he's having a really bad asthma attack. I said, I'm at practice. And he also needs to understand the harsh reality of sport. He remembered that conversation when he saw there was a guy working out a couple of weeks ago for the pro scouts. Guy was doing a cut or something or running. I think he tore his Achilles or tore his knee or something. When he tore it, the scouts looked over, turned around, and kept running practice. You have to actually see how that shit works, Doc, in Division I sports. Like when you get hurt, they're playing, you get hurt, and somebody goes down, pop. You know what the coach said? They say, flip it. Everybody turns around, and they face the other way, and they keep running practice. It is a harsh reality of sport that is hard for people to realize that you're not going to be able to do that shit for long. If you think you're going to be able to sit, you cannot walk around and be like, I won the world championships in 1980. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Right. I mean, they don't, It's like, hey, I went to the Olympics in 2004. Like, those are the things that I lead with in terms of marketing, because I've been coached by marketers on how to lead with stuff in terms of, a unique sales proposition. I said, but nobody gives a shit.
Right. I won the world championships. Nobody's hiring me to write software for them because of that. I mean, it might help a little bit when people are looking at investing in my company saying, well, obviously she can set a goal and take it to completion. But yeah, that gives you that little bit. Then they're going to look at the financial statements and the traction and the market. And if I'm making, instead of making customized software for people who want to make games, I'm making sweaters for turtles, they're not going to invest, no matter how many things I want. I have another 5 minutes before my next meeting.
Good. So tell me this. What's the greatest investment that you made in your kids?
My time. And it's been very difficult for me because, as you know, their dad was in an accident and then died when they were young. So I was working 3 jobs some of that time to cover all the bills and then visiting my husband in intensive care. But I tried very much to always spend quality time with them. Like, even when we were in Bismarck and he was at St. Alexius Hospital, we would go across the street to the Heritage Museum, to the Children's Museum, where they could run around and play. And so I tried at each level where they were to do things that were appropriate to them, whether it's taking the Children's Museum when they were 3 and 4, or taking them to practice when they were 8, 9, and 10, or taking them to SAT study classes. So for me, it was very, very difficult to get that time. Well, I mean, you're a consultant, you get paid by the hour, right? So every hour I'm taking away from my business is less money in the bank because it was just me and them. But sometimes your kids need you to show up. Now, I kind of disagree with those parents that they have to be there for every single thing, because I think also sometimes they need to stand on their own and be independent. But I think the time I spent in everything from teaching them to read to, teaching Rhonda how to do an arm bar, to, teaching them to swim, just all of those things, telling them how to find, even when Julia's in college, how to find a Z-score. But the time I spent with them, period, I think that is the biggest investment.
Good. Now, my final question, and then we'll have our second part of our interview. My final question is, how do you split yourself in 3 and split yourself in 4? Because, I mean, you already said that some things you just can't show up to, but how do you, and you have more than one kid, and all kids do the same shit where they feel like you treat this one better than you treat me. So how do you split yourself in 3 or be 3 places at one time when you actually can't? How do you manage the feelings?
Every one of them thinks that some other kid is my favorite kid. One thing, when they were younger, and like I said, when it was just me or when Ron was sick, I made a rule: you can pick one thing, you can do one thing, So I had, Julie wasn't born yet, but I had 3 kids within 5 years, and I couldn't have that thing where the kid is in piano and soccer and, dance and whatever. So I said, you can each pick one thing, Now, if 2 of you want to do the same thing, then one of you can pick something else. So one of you can do soccer, and one of you can do swimming, and one of you can do piano. But I can't have more than one thing per kid. So that was one thing that I did. And with some things, like when Rhonda had judo tournaments, when she got really into that, I would always try to make it so there was stuff for the other kids and her too. So we would go like to Florida, they'd have, glass bottom boat tours, and the kids could go snorkeling. So I try to fit something for the other kids in everything. But it's difficult. And the other thing is, I told them, I will meet you as far as you're willing to go. So Maria told me when she was 15, I know what it takes to make the Olympics in track, and I don't want it that bad. But I mean,
Hey,
many kids
honest.
should have that honest conversation with their parents.
Yes.
And I said, that's fine. But I'm not going to be sending you around the country to these track camps and stuff like I do to Rhonda. On the other hand, Maria wanted to be a writer since she was 5 years old. And I sacrificed a lot. This whole family sacrificed a lot to afford NYU because she got some academic scholarship and she got no financial aid. This bullshit that if you're Latino, that there's scholarships for you, that, oh, if you're African American, if you're Hispanic, you get a free ride to college. I know, this is bullshit, right? Like my kids got academic scholarships, but the rest of it, I worked a ton to pay for. But I paid for her NYU at that level. I paid for Rhonda's judo at that level. I paid for Jen's USC at that. She got to go to USC for free, but I mean, I had to work there for way the hell less than I would have paid anywhere else. So you try to give each. It's a difference between I don't know if it's equal opportunity,
Equality and equity.
Yes, exactly. So I didn't give every kid as much money to go to judo training camps, but some of those kids got that money when they were in, as an undergrad to go to NYU. Some of it didn't get on track till they were in grad school, went to USC. Some of them went to the Olympics. So everybody, I tried to meet them at what was most important to them when it was most important to them. But everybody does the best they can.
So, Doc, I appreciate this conversation, and we have to continue it because you have a meeting. But we went over kind of the investment that we make in our kids, and in the next discussion I want to ask you what type of investments your kids are making. So we'll talk about that on part 2. What type of investments your kids are making, and what do you invest in now that you're no longer a parent of kids? You still have kids, but not young children. So we'll talk about that on part 2. And thank you so much, Doc.
I will look forward to that.